So you can see both of the knife sets are extremely pretty. We have the ASTERCOOK with the solid black, we have the black base, we have the complete black handle, and then we also have the black blade with the name. With the Amorston, the main difference here is that we have the black base. It is a little bit more of a wood grain than the ASTERCOOK is, but we do have the stainless steel on the end of the handles. And so that's a difference aesthetically between the Amorston and the ASTERCOOK. So we have our black handle with the stainless, and then we also have the black blade with the name of the knife on the blade itself. Both of these sets come with 8 steak knives, 8-inch steak knives. And then they each come with 2 pairs of scissors. We have our standard kitchen shears as well as poultry shears that have a safety lock on them. And these are more like a spring-loaded scissor, but each block comes with those. And then we have 10 specialty knives for each one, the same knives between the two. And so we're going to take a look at each one individually. Other than that, there is a little bit of a size difference between the two. The Amorston is a little bit smaller all across the board, but only less than a 1/2 inch. So width-wise, height-wise, and then depth-wise, no more than 1 inch. But you can see that the ASTERCOOK is a little bit taller and a little bit wider. So the other difference that I wanted to show you before we look at the actual knives themselves is the direction of the sharpener. So on the Amorston set, it's more at an angle, and on the ASTERCOOK set, it is parallel to the block. And so for me personally, I found the Amorston a little bit easier. So with the ASTERCOOK, you're going parallel to the block. So I feel like I am worried about hitting like the scissors and stuff. And then with the Amorston set, it's at this angle, so I'm not worried about hitting anything. That was kind of one of the bigger differences that I found when I was testing both sets. So now let's go ahead and take a look at all the individual knives that it comes with. Okay, so we've got 2 of each knives out here, and before I get into the actual knives that are included, I did want to point out both of the sets have very ergonomic handles, but there is a little bit of a difference. So this is the ASTERCOOK. You can see it has the 1 groove in it, and then it has kind of this wide base here. And then on the Amorston, we've got 2 grooves to kind of hold, plus the wide center. So feeling wise, I feel like the Amorston feels a little bit more comfortable for me, but they do both have an ergonomic handle, which is a lot more natural than a lot of the straight handles. And so those are just kind of the differences in the handles. All right, so first we have our chef's knives. These are 8-inch chef's knives, and these are pretty much your go-to knife for anything that you're doing. They work really well for any type of chopping or mincing. If you're not sure which knife to use, you can always go with your chef's knife. Then we have our slicing knives. So these ones are 8 inches as well. And these are kind of go hand in hand with your chef's knife. And these are also called carving knives. So these ones you're going to use whenever you're doing something like a roast or a turkey. These are going to give you a really good cut on big pieces of meat like that. But you can use these for a lot of other things as well. So if you're just looking to grab a quick knife, your chef's knife's dirty, the slicing knife is going to go easily as well. Okay, next we have our 7-inch ASTERCOOK knives and our 8-inch bread knives. So anytime that you're cutting fresh bread and you don't want to get bread everywhere or get the bread squished down, you're gonna go with these bread knives. And then your ASTERCOOK knives are very good just slicing, mincing knives as well. These do have a more hollow, rounded edge on them. and they have these little pockets here, which really help to get things to not stick to it. So if you're doing a lot of mincing, things aren't kind of sticking to the edges. Next, we have our boning knife, which is great for thin slices of meat or things like fish that you're trying to kind of fillet. Then we have our utility knife, which again, just like the chef's knife, is going to be a good all-around knife, but this is a smaller, shorter blade. So this works really well for trimming, peeling, slicing, and dicing. And then we have our paring knife. Now the ASTERCOOK is a little bit smaller on the blade than the Amorston. Otherwise, they've all been kind of similar in size. But your paring knife is a 3.5 inch. It's really easy when you're working with small things and you want really precision cutting. So like if you're garnishing or you're just doing like small chopping, these work really well. Or even if you're doing like peeling, I use these as well, even though there is an actual peeling knife. And then our final two specialty knives, we have our bread knife, and this is the only one that isn't. Then we have our final two specialty knives. So we have our cheese knife. This is the only one in both sets that's not labeled as a cheese knife. It has this hollow area here, which really helps with it not sticking. And then it has these like little forks, which I like because you can kind of use them to pick up the cheese. And then we have these peeling knives, which are great if you are like peeling potatoes or if you're canning tomatoes, something like that. And then they have this little beaked end on them. And so if you're looking for like a really precision cutting, this is going to be your choice here. So those are all the 10 specialty knives that this comes with. Then we've got 2 pairs of kitchen scissors in each one. So we've got our standard kitchen shears with the nutcrackers in the center. And then we have the serrated edge on one side and a flat on the other. So these are basic all around everything you need. And then we also have the poultry shears, which are going to be really great if you are cutting harder things, like getting ready to do like a rotisserie chicken, something like that. This is really going to give you a lot more control, especially when you're cutting any type of meat, than these scissors or a knife even. And so if you need to be able to cut through bone, this is what you're going to be working with. It does have a safety lever on it as well, and it is kind of a spring load. So when you don't have that on, it is going to open on its own. And so you want to make sure you keep that closed when it's not in use. And then last but not least, we have our 8 steak knives. So these are 4.5 inch steak knives. These are great for setting at the table whenever you're having a nice steak dinner. And these are just going to be what you use on your plate. Get 1 per person. And these can't go wrong with a good old steak knife. So now we're going to go ahead and cut with the knives. We're going to use the 8 inch chef's knife. And then we're going to use the 5 inch cheese knife on a block of cheddar. And then we're going to use the 5 inch utility on some cherry tomatoes. So both sets of knives pass this test the same way. So you can see that with the chef's knife, we're getting a nice slice, a very clean slice, no roughness. It's very easy to go through. I'm not having to like saw. Then we have the cheese knife, and that has that hollowed edge so that the cheese doesn't stick to it. And it does have the fork at the end so that you can pick up the slices of cheese as well. And then our last knife, the utility knife, you're going to see that it cuts through these tomatoes extremely easily. Now, one thing with things like cherry tomatoes and grapes, a lot of times if your knife is not sharp enough, you end up smashing the tomato. And you can see I'm able to get very thin slices without smushing the tomato at all. All right, so I hope that helps you to decide between the Amorston and the ASTERCOOK sets. These are both really high quality 21-piece sets. If you're looking for something with the stainless, you'll want to choose the Amorston. If you want a solid black, you go with the ASTERCOOK. Or if you want the handle with the double bumps in it, than the Amorston or the single with the ASTERCOOK. Like I said, overall, these are very, very comparable. It's just going to come down to the aesthetics. They both cut extremely well and are overall very high quality knives.